Okay, Bradley in Texas, got your George here and your NM532 here. So I already put a battery in it for you and checked it and everything's good with it, so it'll be all set. I'll put that in the box with your radio. I got one of mine here that I'll use, and these are cool because they plug right in to the radio. You don't have to rewire them or anything like that. Only thing I recommend that customers do if they get one is switch the mic type to dynamic. So that's the only thing you need to do, and I'll send it out like that for you. If you want to use the other mic that comes with it, then just simply switch it back, and then that one will work. Otherwise it won't energize the electret condenser inside the mic. So I put that one off to the side. We'll use mine here for the test. One other thing that I always forget to do on these that you can easily do as a user of this radio is you can go back into the settings, and what I like to do with these is switch the indicator here to SWR. Otherwise, this is how it comes from the factory with frequency. You don't really need frequency on a 40 channel CB, so I like it to show SWR when I TX. That way we can monitor the SWR level right there. That's a little bit better way to do it, I think. It's going to be, relative to your antenna. If you put an amplifier behind this, it's never going to probably give you an accurate reading because the circuit gets confused because an amplifier throws things out of balance. So probably in that situation, anyone would be better off using an external meter after the amplifier, something like that. It's always best anyways to, check your antenna with an analyzer. There's so many different conflicting views and theories on the length of feed line that you should use from point A to point B. I don't try to really dabble into that stuff because there's so much excuse me, there's so many different points of view there. There's really, everyone's going to argue that their method is the best, and no right way, no wrong way. As long as you have as close to 50 ohm as you can get, and that doesn't always mean that the SWR is going to be a solid 1.0 or 1.1. Sometimes some antennas are not able to do that, but as long as you're close to 50 ohm, it's going to work out well. Obviously, with this up here, this is a 50 ohm device here. You would put this outside and you would talk nowhere. So just because it's perfect SWR and perfect 50 ohm doesn't always mean it's going to work well either. And that's only usually for one or two frequencies. If you're adjusting, like say, an antenna for this frequency, you go up on 40, it's going to change a little bit. You have to accept the fact that antennas, they work the way they work. If you're using multiple bands and stuff like that, a multi-banded antenna, then things are going to change. So, that's enough about that. Back to the radio. So we're in SSB. We're going to look at the power real quick here. The RF power is at level 10. So RF power is at level 10, and we're doing upwards of almost 30. So these are very punchy, good talking radios from what I found. They're very responsive with especially with this microphone. It really allows the radio to just fully talk. It gives it just a little bit more, kind of like a compressor would do. It kind of keeps the peak power up just a little bit more. But it's not adding power to the radio. The power is generated by the radio. It just allows the radio to talk more fluently and keep the power up to a certain level there. So we're hitting 30 pretty easy at times. So that's really good. Really easy to adjust this. Just turn it back and that's it. Unkey the mic, it goes away. And then you talk it down in this level, so you're going to do almost like maybe a little more than half, but about half of what we did before. So that's good. And then we turn it down to level 1. At level 1, it's going to do much less. So it gives you the ability to change on the fly for like that. So now we'll go to AM. AM mode, we can key up and see the SWR there. I like that feature a lot better than showing this frequency. You can switch it back. You can have timeout timer. I'm not sure if the timeout timer is actually able to be shut off though. Let's see. Tone. And you can change those. I'd have to look in the book to see what that is. I'm not exactly sure. You can turn the span on. That'll allow you to get through the channels a little bit faster. Dual watch, emergency. This is for your CTCSS and whatnot. NRC. Yeah, I don't think you can turn the timeout timer off, so that's one thing you'll have to, unless it's hidden in one of these features here. I would reference the manual for that for anyone wondering. Sorry about the coughing. I saw a video, or not a video, but a post of someone was talking about the George 2 in Europe, and they were complaining that the timeout timer wasn't able to be shut off, and maybe that's the case, I don't know. As long as you're not keying up for an extended period of time, I don't think it's really an issue. So let's see where we're at here. RF power level 1 on AM. It's about 1 watt right there for you. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Check, check. So you're not going to see a big amount of power from the low power setting. It's never going to do a ton of power. Again, I really don't think too many are going to talk with 1 watt with this. So if we turn it up a little bit, there's about level 4. At about level 4 there, it will come up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Check, check, check. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2. So, you know, you get a little bit more power out of this when you raise the dead key. Let's see where we were at here. So 2.25. Turn it up to level 5. It's usually about 2.5. So at about a 2.5 there is about where these start to really, I like about the 2.5. If I was gonna, you know, maybe put something small behind this or something, it's just enough to allow that thing to do what it should do. So it's not too much, you're not gonna overdrive it. Just a perfect amount of balance there. So obviously if I turn it up to the 4 watts, which is about here. So at the 4 watt level, now we're going to see some extra power. Since this is AM and we have a nice clean modulation, it's never going to like constantly slam 4 watts swinging 30. You have to remember, you know, it's more about clarity of signal than sheer power, because sheer power just sounds terrible, especially causing bleed over and all that stuff. So you want purity of signal, not really, you don't want that, you know. So that part's done. Let's put this on the equipment really quick and we'll just show what it looks like. And then that'll be it. I'll get this one ready to send off to you today, Bradley. So I was working close to it. I got your email yesterday. I was getting there, but just work and everything getting in the way. This is the fun work that I do. The job that I do, I mean, it's not bad, but obviously I would prefer to do this more. Alright, here it is on AM with the RF power all the way up. There's the frequency there. I find that most of these kind of fall in about plus 10 hertz. Unfortunately, as of right now, that's not adjustable, so there's nothing I can really do, but a lot of the 10 meter radios also fall right in this area. Even on those, since you can adjust them, a lot of times you can't ever get it perfect to the all zeros, because if a lot of the 10 meter radios, if you make the change, like you try to drop it down, it'll fall to like 9.9, like 4 or something. So you know, they have probably a way to do it on this. I reached out and have gotten no information back yet, so I am assuming that probably the information that would be shared may contain some other stuff that maybe they just don't want put out there. I can't speak for them. I'm not saying anything bad about the manufacturer or anything like that. It's just as of right now, there's no way to adjust this any better than what it is, and it's not really that bad. It's really good. So this is going to be way better than like your McKinley's and Bearcat 980, stuff like that, that would be in this category of approved SSB, AM, CB with FM. Like, and obviously we would compare it to the McKinley 2 then, but I am using a Bluetooth earpiece today. I don't know how the audio is going to turn out. This is the second video I've done today, so hopefully it turns out okay and it's not too nasally or too high pitched. I'm not sure, but this is the waveform here. AM modulation. So we're looking at the carrier was 4 watts, and with the average it's somewhere 9 to 10. There's 11 flashing there. Here's how it looks up there, so that's really nice. I'm going to lower the RF power back. I'll just watch this kind of shrink down. Notice that there's no distortion or anything. What happens with these, if you go in and you turn them up all the way, you get a lot of distortion on the negative peak, which is not good. You don't want that. So you can't just go in here and crank everything wide open, and you know, it's not the preferred way to do it for sure, although probably some will do that. So you know, there it is right there. It's really clean. Let me actually whoops, what did I do here? I think we got a timeout timer or something. Yeah, there we go. Auto scale that down. There we go. Timeout timer does engage. I don't know if it's a minute, 30 seconds, I can't remember, but it did engage on me. So there's the low power. With the low power, you can see the average goes up, and the peak is almost 4, 3.5, 3.5. So if I bring that up, back up to 10, now our peak is about 16.9. So that gives you a good idea that it's doing just about what it should. Okay, here it is on sideband. Two-tone test right here. That's how it looks. It's awesome. Kind of play with how it looks a little bit on the screen, but it never really changes it. It just brings it into view a little bit different ways. You can zoom in on it a little bit, so that looks really nice. And then up here on the spectrum analyzer, I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that. If you were to put like an IC7300 or something up there, it would look like this. Looks really good. So that seems to be, everybody seems to, at least in the comments and stuff, everybody's, oh yeah, you get an IC7300. There's tons of guys using it for CB, and that's great. But you know, if you're only going to use it as CB, save yourself a lot of money, and you know, get something that's, you know, like this, that's going to work dedicated for CB. Because I don't consider using the, and I've said it before, I don't consider using the frequencies above, like here or below here. That's not CB to me. This is CB. These are CB channels. This is what CB is, and everything else is, it's not ham radio. Like these aren't ham radio above here or below here. It's not ham radio either, so it's kind of like you're in no man's land. And I'm not saying anything will ever happen to anyone that uses those frequencies. All I'm saying is you're putting yourself at unnecessary, you know, risk of someone, you know, monitoring or whatever. If you're here, there's way less chance of anything really negative happening to you, because you're okay. You should be here. So I'm not trying to scare people or anything like that. I just give my opinion sometimes, and you know, there's nothing wrong with using this radio whatsoever. It's a fantastic radio for CB. And if you're really into CB, then I would say support the CB channels here, because you know, you always hear in the ham radio world they worry about the FCC in America taking away certain bands and stuff like that. Well, I mean, who's to say nobody's talking on, you know, a bunch of these channels. Obviously they talk on this one, but in this one, but I mean, they could come in here and say, well, we're going to cut the CB channels in half or something. You know, you never know what they could do or what they might do. So if you use these channels, you're really supporting like basic CB radio at its foundation, you know. And I really think that most operators, even if you're buying one of those high dollar HF rigs, just use the standard frequencies and then use the license bands. If you have the license, use all that stuff. Use it because you studied and you got all the information required to get the license. Use the bands, use them, and enjoy it. It's all there to be enjoyed. And if you're just simply buying a radio to use it as like CB, I think in some cases it's kind of a waste. It's a lot of money to spend for something that you're probably just going to use around here anyways. This radio will sound so much better on AM than any of those HF sets would ever dream of anyway. So You know, there's a lot to be said about just using standard equipment for the standard CB channels, and you know, I can't stress that enough, that you know, like an old school radio like this to me has a lot of value still, because it's just a bona fide CB radio at its bare core. And I think that's so cool that, you know, that's all it is, and that's all it was ever designed to be, and it still works really good. So, and this one will probably be another one of those that in 20 years from now, maybe this one will be long since forgotten about or something. There'll be way better models. Maybe I'll have one of these sitting here and feel like, oh yeah, the George, it's still really good, you know. And I would say that about this in another 20 years. Hopefully it still works. Who knows what'll happen, but it's a little bit longer than I wanted to make it a little more blabbing about stuff. But hope you enjoy this one, Bradley. I did notice on this one, if that's picking that up or not, this has a protective film over the whole display. There is a little like nudge in that film. I don't know if you can see that little dot there. It's almost like something poked that. You know, if you take your fingernail and you were to scratch this, you could scratch that film. So what I recommend everybody does, if you want to use this, especially out in a vehicle, I would recommend peeling that film off as soon as possible. It's there to protect everything, but it can be detrimental later to the front of the radio. It's going to be very hard to get it off later. And I'm assuming that it's all over the front. Yeah, you can see kind of that glossy look. It covers this whole front panel, I'm assuming, and you can see there's some nudges. Also, like when it gets up under those controls, it's going to get harder and harder to get off the longer it's on there. I'm not going to take the one off the one I'm keeping for me, because it's going to stay in the house for the most part until I get used to using the radio. And then maybe I'll keep another one for myself and put it out in my car, and at that point I'll peel the film. But that's just a tip that I have for everybody. Alright, Bradley, thanks a lot. 73, we'll get this sent off to you.